I hope everybody's doing okay. This is Slaves of Satan, part 51. And while it's going to be probably one of the faster ones, that does not mean that it has any less importance. And while I'm not going to spend a gigantic amount of time talking about paracelsus, it is extremely important to know who this person is. This is where all the toxicology medicine comes from. Radiation, chemo, antibiotics, all that stuff you probably would not have if it was not for paracelsus. And I'm not going to go on any opinionative rant about how I feel about things like chemo or radiation. Personally, I don't have an extremely negative or an extremely positive view about it. It's not as bad as it used to be. I don't have a specific negative opinion about medication as other people do that identify as Christian or even religious. I've made it clear what I don't believe in poking yourself with any vax. I don't believe in smoking anything. I don't believe in any psychostriptic that permanently rewires the way the brain thinks, and that's pretty much about it. But it's less about what he brought to medicine and more of this ancient art that he brought into the world is what matters anyways. Now, I went by Paracelsus. His full name was Philippus Arbus Theophrastus Bombastus von Jotunheim. And while that sounds like a lot to the average person, most people, I would say, in most of the Commonwealth countries, have completely lost the knowledge that there is power in these very long names. There is metaphysical abilities hidden in words, and history has proven that people that became renowned for doing something bad did have gematria type codes in their name that linked it up to a number that symbolizes something bad, and people that did a lot of good typically have had names that run up to a good number. So if anybody is having a kid, I would recommend thinking long and hard about the name and the number it comes out to. But anyways, he was a physician, alchemist, a lay theologian, a German Renaissance philosopher, and like I said, father of toxicology. And while now, like I said, cancer treatments is probably one of the most extreme things that you will see in civilized organization. Back then, he treated people with a whole bunch of mercury, or while this only stopped less than 150 years ago, for hundreds of years, what you would do is you would go to a doctor and they would just literally put leeches on your body. And this started with one of the popes. I believe there was a syphilis outbreak, and the pope got it because they can't keep their vow to celibacy that's satanic to take to begin with. So then they end up taking their frustrations out on innocent people. But I think that's why they take the oath to begin with, so they have a workaround way to do it. So anyways, back then there was pretty much just naturopathic doctors and people that understood how to use natural things that grew, like opium for pain. So you had those type of doctors. Now, since this syphilis outbreak was new, they didn't really know how to work a cure or treatment around for it. Now, Paracelsus, while there is a lot of negative and some positive to say about him, he was probably one of the smartest people that has been alive in the past 1,000 or so years. So he was able to cure the syphilis outbreak, and then the Pope started persecuting the naturopathic doctors and started leaning towards toxicology. And then things switched back to naturopathy doctors for quite a while in America up until the late 1800s and early 1900s, where you started getting these prominent families, specifically the Rockefellers, started pouring billions into making medicine into a more attractive type of business instead of something that people hated going to. So instead of getting leeches put on you to extract whatever illness somebody somehow conjured up in their body, they started switching to like basic pills to take down the infection or temperature or stuff like that. He's also viewed as a prophet by the Rosicrucians, and it all come together of why they look up to this man as so highly towards the end. And if it wasn't for the end, probably most people would not even know who this person is. There's a whole philosophical system based off of him called paracelsusism. One of the more famous people that was a Paracelsian type of doctor was Robert Flood. He was an astrologer, practiced divination, a demonologist, a hermetic, a Neoplatonic, and a Pythagorean philosopher. So pretty much the average that you see with all these people. Now, what a regular history book won't tell you about Paracelsus is that he used not only metaphysical methods to heal his patients, which specifically would not be bad, but he used something that I haven't really gone over a whole lot because it's not something that really gets brought up very easy, and it's not something that really many people know about. He used the elemental spirits or the stoicions, um, like in the New Testament when you read, I think it's in Peter where it mentions the word rudiments, and you go into a Strong's Concordance, rudiments does go to stoicions. The stoicions are the elemental spirits. Now, the fire elementals are called salamanders. The earth elementals or stoicions is called gnomes. Then you have the air is called sylphs. And then for the water you have undines, which covers all of the different water ones as well. And then there's different types of all these things. That's not the purpose of this, but for example, if his physical medicine could not heal the person, instead of doing what a good doctor would do and pray for the person, which he would claim he would, but back then these people had to talk in code. Like when you read a lot of these very old books, when witchcraft was still a crime, you'll see that they'll use Christian terminology to make things sound better. Like a good example is the sacred magic of Abramelin. Like when they use holy guardian angel when they know very well, that's a very horrific, evil system. But anyways, so say if the person had a fever that his leeches or mercury or poisons could not heal, he would summon a water spirit to go inside the person and cool down the fever in a dark art metaphysical type of way. And while the person would feel better very quick, they walk away not knowing that a spirit was used on them. Then they leave either being oppressed or possessed. And these spirits linger in these psychotropic drugs. They linger in marijuana. They linger in so-called magic mushrooms. Um, Pretty much anything that makes you trip. They linger in it, and what they linger in the very most is alcohol. That's why we get alcohol from the word alkohol, which is a body-eating spirit. Or back in the old days, this is how banging the glasses together and saying Sears got started. You would bang the glass against whoever you was with before you drank it, because they understood what it did, what was in it, but they still liked the feeling. They would bang the glasses together to attempt to make a noise to scare the spirits out of the alcohol, and then they would dump a little bit on the ground as an offering. And while it's and of course it didn't work, but they even had an understanding of what this stuff was. But while you will probably never hear a doctor talk about this person, this is who, rather knowingly or not, almost every modern doctor looks up to. But like I said, while he was a genius, he was smart enough to understand basic things that the average person will make you look like a lunatic for believing, like the firmament. Like Paracelsus has a list of 5 different things that basically makes you die, and he blames the 5th thing as the heavens or firmament. While he had like I said, he has a very different opinion about what all this stuff is, but he even understood the cosmology of the earth, which I believe all of these occult astrologers understand. For example, and Helena Blavatsky will go on and on and on and on and on about the earth not being a flat, stationary, dome-like structure. But you're telling me that she was one of the most prominent occultists of the past 200 years and was very well versed in astrology and astronomy and never figured this out? No. There's a reason that people like that get their stuff even promoted. Something that you will never hear almost anybody know. But she was the first naturalized citizen from Russia that we ever had. And there's also been plenty of sources that have revealed that she was getting paid an unimaginable amount of money by Russia to spread the false gospel of theosophy. Now, Paracelsus also pioneered these astrological talismans. A good example would be how when Joseph Smith died, he had a talisman of Jupiter in his pocket, which is used for 2 things. It's used to bring success with women and political achievements. Real spiritual for Joseph, wasn't it? And you can open up like like any of these older books that's been put out, like encyclopedias, and it'll tell you right there what these astronomical talismans was for. And the way they work is there's a pattern on all of them, and the pattern links up to the pattern of one of these planets. And I've reiterated this over and over again. Eventually I will do a very big explanation when I feel that it's needed, but these things aren't what you think they are. They are imprisoned angels that's taken the form of a star, because star is another term for angels anyways. The book of Enoch, which should be in everyone's Bible, explains it very thoroughly. Now, he also created sizzles before they were really, well, he didn't create them, but he used them quite a bit, which not many people did until they started being used in chaos magic by Austin Osman Spare. Now, he also practiced weapon salve, which I think that should be looked at again and reconsidered by any type of doctor or healer that believes in the supernatural, and of course healing through God, because sometimes God will perform a miraculous miracle of healing through Jesus Christ, and sometimes he'll use the doctor. Now, while a lot of people would just shake their head at this, there is magnetism, there is animism. Anything that has a substance that's from the earth has somehow a living presence in it. So, for example, this weapon salve. So what they would do back then was, say if somebody got robbed and they got slashed with a sword or a knife. If they were able to retrieve that knife, what they would do was they would treat the knife with cleansing materials, and there a lot of times there would be improvement on the person's wound, because they understood that because your blood, the essence of the life, got put onto that living substance, because a knife or sword has minerals in it, because it's some of that blade, a large part of it is from the ground, and it's sharpened with rocks and stuff like that. So there is a connection, and I don't see anything wrong with treating something that way, because they have modern Christians terrified of thinking that everything, just because it seems strange, or it's not really something they hear many people talk about, that's something wrong to do. But that's not the case. Like, these people are horrified when they hear the word occult, esoteric, or arcane. But everything needs to be looked at individually to decide if it's wrong or not. Now, this astral medicine thing, astral travel being the main term that you hear astral being used, or astral realm. It's where you go outside of your body in a very lightweight or no weight spiritual form. I don't believe a Christian should practice that, but in my sleep I've accidentally came out of my body and astral projected, or astral hovered. It's a very horrifying, terrible thing. But he would also astral project out of his body, and then use his essence of the soul to do something to the patient's body, which probably in the end made them worse off than they already was. but rather this is wrong or not, he was pretty devoted to these patients. And he tried to push this natural magic thing, which some of it shouldn't really even have the word magic attached to it, like going out in the woods and picking up a natural herb is not magic. A lot of this stuff has been hijacked to make people think that everything is evil. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention and what makes him such a horrible figure and so polarizing is because he's the first known person to have claimed, and evidence shows that he did create the first known homunculus. And while it sounds like a strange word, it will be thrown around more than you notice. Like, there was that popular anime Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood that was all about a homunculi, and there's basically two types. There's a type known as a golem. Like, there's that story from the 16th century of the rabbi from Prague that created a golem from Kabbalistic magical rituals by putting letters and words on its head and alchemical text and stuff like that. And that's where an artificial spirit goes into a clay being or inside of a suit of armor, and through Luciferian means makes it seem alive. Basically how a necromancer would raise a corpse, put a artificial spirit in it, and tell people that they rose the dead. They did not raise the dead. They probably have just have a fallen angel or strong demonic entity making it move. It's not the same thing. But now the homunculus is where you would make life completely just come up from nothing. Now some of these people that have said to make them, which there is more than paracelsus that have claimed to have made them. Some people have claimed to have 10 alive at once. Now some people have claimed that they use things like parts of babies and stuff like that. Other people have claimed not to do so. I'm not gonna explain how these people do it. Because while nobody should practice it, it's a lot more simple but a lot harder than it sounds. Just like this philosopher's stone thing, it's a lot easier than you would think, but a lot harder too. And I believe God makes it that way, so people can't end up screwing up so bad that they possibly cannot even be forgiven, because like this gets into completely altering the natural flow of humanity. It's very serious. Now, for people that just think this is too unbelievable to believe in, these high society Rosicrucian people are not idiots. They've been some of the most brilliant minds that have ever been on God's planet. They would know if it was a bunch of nonsense. They would have abandoned the text of Paracelsus if it was a bunch of nonsense. There's even rumors that that's actually how Jack Parsons blew himself up, that he was trying to create a homunculi. And not many people have wrote about it, thankfully, but I believe that it happens and has happened a lot more than people think. I fully believe that we walk past people that are not that was not born with the Spirit of God in them all the time. I believe that we walk by clones all the time. I believe that we walk by shape-shifting fallen angels. I believe that we walk by possible advanced humanoids that we don't realize, among other things. And once you realize that those are so easily completely real, it's not out of the realm of possibility whatsoever. And the other thing that I want to mention, because it's all about this bloodline thing. He was a descendant of the Order of St. John, which it got her started from Queen Victoria, and started in the modern world, in 1888, I believe so. But it's been around since the early thousands in Jerusalem, and I believe when these very famous ceremonial magicians seem to be born with this knack for these dark arts, it's something to do with the bloodline. Even when you study DNA, you'll see patterns like the descendants will sometimes have similar talents or even similar interests or hobbies as their parents. And I believe it goes the same way with that. And that's when you also get into the generational curses. And a lot of people have strong opinions on that, and they feel like it's something that we can just pray against and break them. But that's not what you exactly find in the Bible. God sternly says that he punishes the generations 3 to 4 times down. And do I necessarily think that sounds like reasonable? No, I don't, but I'm not going to argue with the Bible because it proves itself to be true at an unimaginable rate. Like the rate of the Bible to be right about everything to do with the prophecy of Jesus Christ is 1 in the 17th power. That's when you get into the quintillions. So it's not about what an earthly mind thinks seems fair or not. If it's in the Bible, then I believe that we just need to accept that that's the way it is. For some reason, God made things like that, so I'm not gonna argue against it. But think of this every time you hear about toxicology, and especially poking yourself with the bite of the serpent, as a lot of people call it, because all of that does trickle down from paracelsus. When you read Enoch in Genesis 6, that was an incident that became a thing. God had to wipe the people out with the flood because of the DNA mix-up that Samyaza caused. So when you see how serious he thought that messing with the DNA was, consider that before you start messing with your own. Have a good rest of the night.